There's a quiet misunderstanding at the center of many modern relationships. Men feel like they're doing more than ever, being emotionally available, helpful, accommodating. Yet women feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and strangely disconnected, even when nothing is objectively wrong. And both sides sense it, but can't put a name to what it is. Because what's actually breaking down isn't effort. It isn't communication. It isn't love. It's the loss of energetic roles. Specifically, the loss of masculine containment and feminine flow. At a fundamental level, masculine and feminine energy do different kinds of work. The masculine serves life by creating structure, by stabilizing, filtering, and clearing space. The feminine serves life by moving into that space, by filling it with connection, creativity, emotion, and vitality. When those roles are aligned, relationships feel grounded and alive. When they blur or invert, both people feel confused and dissatisfied. So instead of talking about who does which chores, or who's right or wrong, we need to talk about space. About how space is created, how it's protected, and how it's relieved of pressure. And this is where masculinity is most often misunderstood. Many men assume providing means adding, doing more, saying more, fixing more. But masculine containment doesn't begin with addition. It begins with removal. Not removing things arbitrarily, but removing what prevents life from functioning smoothly. What burdens her, what drains her, what forces her into constant self-regulation. If you believe that adding financially to her life will automatically increase her attraction, especially when finances are not one of her main concerns, you are misunderstanding masculine removal. Money can be one form of containment. So can taking out the trash in the cold. So can being capable, handy, reliable. But so can emotional steadiness. So can stepping in for dinner on a hard night. So can absorbing stress without passing it back to her. Every couple is different. Every woman is different. And the needs within each relationship are different. The task of the masculine is not to default to prestige or tradition, but to identify within the context of their relationship what must be removed to create space. As I've said before, gentlemen, do what is necessary. Nothing more, nothing less. That is containment. Masculinity restores balance by shouldering this weight. Often weight she does not want or should not have to bear. But containment alone does not create polarity. Space only matters if something moves into it. Femininity fills that space. It is responsive, expansive, alive. Feminine energy is like water. It rises and falls depending on the space available to it. Give it space, and it fills it. Constrict it, and it pulls away. As I've also said before, you cannot shape water. What you can do is create a space that water wants to fill. This is the dynamic. The masculine clears space. The feminine fills it, in her own way, at her own pace. But space does not create itself. Someone has to move first. Someone has to step into uncertainty and remove what stands in the way. This is what it means to lead. I've heard many women say they want a man who takes initiative. And it's worth asking why that desire exists. It isn't because women belong in submission. And it isn't because they are incapable of leading when a situation calls for it. It's because clearing space requires someone to move first. To allow water to flow, something must be carved out for it to flow into. Initiative creates that opening. Masculine leadership is doing what is necessary in a given moment so the feminine can relax, expand, and move freely. Men, you cannot want to lead. Expect her to be vulnerable. Expect her to fill the space that you've created, only to turn around and place more responsibility back onto her when it becomes inconvenient. Leadership means bearing the weight first, clearing the path fully, and staying there long enough for her to trust the space. This is not always some glorious position. Think for a moment of gardening. Most people enjoy planting, nurturing, watching things develop successfully. The feeling of glory that comes from successfully growing something, showing it off, turning it into an abundant food source. Meanwhile, very few enjoy clearing weeds, breaking hard ground, removing stones. It is hardly a glamorous position. But without that initial labor, nothing will grow. Historically, masculinity often looked like removing threats, creating safety, providing stability. Femininity filled the space around that with the remainder of life. That often looked like raising children or taking care of the home. Times changed. Work changed. Roles evolved. But the principle did not. Men still need to ask, what needs to be removed here so space can exist? Sometimes it is financial stress or removing threats. Sometimes it's removing self-induced chaos. Sometimes it's emotional instability. Sometimes it's simply stepping up and doing what no one else wants to do. Masculinity isn't choosing roles based on prestige or perception. It's becoming skilled at identifying what is necessary. When masculinity shifts from clearing space to deciding what belongs in it, the dynamic falls apart. Polarity breaks when men stop clearing space and start adding to it. And adding anything can become the problem. Too much kindness, too much emotion, too much anger, too many confessions. The man who pours everything onto her creates just as much pressure as the man who creates instability. Both force her to contain. And when she has to contain herself, or contain him, attraction begins to fade. Quickly, quietly, and she often can't explain why. But the dynamic has inverted. It is worth noting that just as men can fail to clear space, women can fail to move into it. Just as masculine containment can break down, feminine receptivity can shut down as well. Masculine leadership does not work in a vacuum. Clearing space is an invitation, not a demand. If space is created, but never entered, if direction is offered, but never received, the dynamic cannot complete itself. The feminine does not exist to comply with leadership, but it does exist to move toward and around what feels grounded, stable, and worthy of filling. And that movement is a choice. To fill space requires vulnerability. It requires trust. It requires the willingness to step forward rather than stay guarded. The feminine cannot refuse to fill space while simultaneously resenting the masculine for leading. Women must choose carefully who they fill that space around, and they must require, not request, quality containment from the men in their lives. Because when masculine initiative is discouraged, when men are made to feel purposeless, when their efforts to clear space are dismissed or undermined, polarity stalls. Not because the masculine failed, but because the dance requires two motions. Men and women do not depend on each other. They move in symmetry, yet they are asymmetrical. Much like in my profile picture of the Norse wolves, Skull and Hati, men and women exist in an eternal chase, not stasis. In tension, not sameness. In evolution, not equilibrium. If they were the same size, the same shape, the same color, with the same motivations, there would be no chase. The dynamic would disappear. Even our bodies reflect this truth. We appear symmetrical from the outside, but inside we are profoundly uneven. The heart sits slightly to the left, pumping life through the body, much like water moving through nature. The liver sits to the right, filtering and protecting, deciding what does not belong. One generates movement, the other preserves balance. The body relies more heavily on the right side for structure and action, but only functions properly when the left side fills that space that the structure creates. It is precisely this imbalance, the division of labor, that allows the system to work the way it is supposed to. We may yearn for perfect symmetry, but we will never achieve it. And that is the beauty of this dynamic. Like the wolves, forever circling, it is the dance of our differences that makes men and women whole. Not sameness, not equality of role, but harmony through contrast. That is masculine containment. That is feminine flow. And in this dynamic is where real attraction lives. If this resonated with you, I invite you to join me here for future videos as we continue to explore this dynamic. Until next time, ladies, gentlemen, be good to each other.